Ben Welbourn is the COO of Verto Education and an alum of a self-designed gap year. Ben earned his degree in international relations from the College of Worcester in Ohio, and before joining the field of experiential education, he taught at a primarily Dominican-American school outside of Boston. Ben has since overseen international program development, student outreach and recruitment, and business development for a number of student travel organizations. This is his third GYA conference and his first AEE. Please welcome Ben.
I had senioritis freshman year of high school. Have you ever been stuck in a place that you wanted to get out of so badly that it hurt? Like the back of an ambulance or an election season or a Nickelback concert. High school was my Nickelback concert. The classroom was not my natural habitat for learning. And one morning of senior year, it was particularly bad. And on the way to school, I called my friend Jesse and said, "Man, I don't think I can do this today." And he said, "Well, actually, I was about to call you and say the exact same thing." So I met him in the parking lot and jumped into his car, and we took off without a plan. We knew we needed gas, and we knew we needed to call in sick or they'd call our parents. So we pulled into a gas station, and I made the first call. And my dad is the type of person who thinks he's friends with everybody. Luckily, it went to voicemail, and I went, "Hiya, Gene, this is Dave Welbourn. Ben's not feeling so hot today, so we're gonna keep him here, but we'll get him back at the regional tomorrow. Have a good one." Nailed it. Then came Jesse, the homecoming king, best athlete, best actor, best dancer, best singer in school. A very strange, very obnoxious combination for the rest of us. And went to voicemail. "Hi, Jesse's sick today. Okay, bye." You blew it! You screwed both of us. Clearly, I wasn't the most enthusiastic student in the world, but when I applied myself, I could get it done. About a month before graduation, one of our teachers, in front of a big group of seniors, asked us all what our plans were for after graduation. And everybody went through and said, "Oh, I'm going to this college, and I'm going to this college, and I'm a very unique person because I'm going to this college." And I went, "Well, I'm actually going to take a gap year next year." And my teacher very publicly looked at me and said, "Yeah, that's probably a good idea." She was such a jerk. And she was totally right. Not ready for prime time. It turns out the path of least resistance for me finishing my teens was over 2,000 miles over mountains. On June 16, 2006, my friend Brayton and I left to prom and graduation parties and friends and family and everything to go to Maine and start the 2,174.6 mile Appalachian Trail to Georgia. And I was so absent in my teens that I didn't even plan this thing. For about 2 years, Brayton went through, what food to get and where to get it and what gear to buy and what it was going to weigh down to the nearest 1/10 of an ounce. I was just along for the ride. So we start, and a few days in, and I wake up one morning on the 5th day, and I look over at Brayton, and he's in his sleeping bag, just staring straight ahead. I gotta go home. Are you kidding me? 2 years of your planning, and you want to go home in 5 days. We've been on hikes together. This was your idea. I knew planning was stupid. So, one thing he didn't plan for, though, is that when you start in Maine, you have to start in what is called the 100-mile wilderness, which is exactly what it sounds like. So to get off the trail, he had to take a very long side trail and then on a logging road with only logging trucks, hitchhike to the nearest town, and then find a Greyhound and go back to New Jersey. I kept going at least to the first town. That was my goal. And on day 10, I get into Monson, the first town, and I look all over town and finally find a payphone and call my parents. And for some reason, they had it in their head that I was going to be, at that point, on day 8. So they were freaking out on day 10. After a few minutes of calming them down, they say, "And how's Brayton doing?" "He's in New Jersey." Dead silence. "So you're coming home?" And I still don't know if that was a statement or a question. But I said, I might quit tomorrow, but I'm going to keep trying and see how it goes. And I had met a couple of girls. It didn't seem like that big of a decision, but I was already learning things. I was learning things about self-advocacy and confidence and independence, and the fact that, generally speaking, things are going to work out. Oh, and how to talk to girls. So on November 13, after 5 months of I'm probably going to quit tomorrow, I finished on Springer Mountain in Georgia. And that was it. So I flew home. And once again, I had no plans. But I knew I was broke. So I went to the easiest job interview I will ever have, which is at REI. And it was one question. And it was, what makes you think you're qualified to sell camping equipment? So I started working at REI. And I worked at a factory, and I worked in telemarketing, and just awful jobs that I never want to do again. And then eventually I got enough money to do what was next. And I didn't have a plan. But I really lucked out with my parents. Because I was talking through options, and they said, well, this is a pretty risk-free time, A gap year is really the only time in your life where you're not accountable to anyone. So if something scares you, now's the time. Jackpot with these parents. So 2 weeks later, my one-way flight to Lima, Peru, lands at midnight, and I grab my bags, and I go outside, and all my Spanish is gone. All of my high school Spanish and my middle school Spanish is toast. And it's very dark. So I stand on the corner, and I remember the Spanish word for taxi, which is taxi. Somehow, a few days later, I end up in Huancayo, Peru, up in the Andes, and go to the school that I was planning on teaching at. And I was told I was going to have 12 students who were 12 years old. And I show up with the owner of the school, and there are 35 students between the ages of 4 and 18. No lesson plan, no curriculum, no materials, no attendance policy. This was going to be a huge waste of everybody's time. So I said, okay, so what would you like me to do? And he says, oh, teach English. And that was my formal training as a teacher. It's probably the worst possible introduction to teaching, but it was my first experience with a potential career path that was not theoretical. So either I have no imagination whatsoever, given that I'm still doing this stuff, and I just stuck with the first thing I tried, or experiential education actually works. And yeah, going into survival mode in the woods and learning how to survive in the mountains and learning the value of hard work with horrible jobs that I never want to repeat, and learning about history and corruption and humanity from humans in Peru sparked my curiosity and my excitement to learn more. I love learning. I just didn't know it until then. My first semester of college, I got the best grades I had ever gotten. I spent tons of time with my professors, not for the grade, but because I genuinely wanted to learn from them. Getting out of the classroom was the healthiest thing I have ever done for my education. Thanks.